Hey there, everyone. So glad to have you here. It's Karen Lanoux from No Limits Businesswoman, and it's a lovely October day here. It's my dad's birthday. If my dad was still alive, he would be 90 today. So happy birthday, Dad. I know you're around us somewhere. Again, I'm so glad you're here today. We're going to be talking about navigating difficult conversations. And so, and look, I want to get this in here. I'm kind of changed there we go. Let's do that. All right. Okay. There. So if you don't know me, my name again is Karen Lanoux from NoLimitsBusinesswoman.com. And I help women in business, whether you are in your own business or whether you are working for someone else. I help women in business to level up and start to eliminate procrastination, self-sabotage, the imposter syndrome, and a dreaded thing called overwhelm. We hate that, right? So that's what I help people do. And you know, if you want to know more about me, I invite you to take in my webinar. It is called, where you go to find it is nolimitsbusinesswoman.com/training. And it's about 45 minutes, maybe just a little bit more than that. So go and check it out. And I talk about what my clients have done to get past that procrastination overwhelm, and how their self-sabotage habits start to disappear. And so go and check that out again. It's nolimitsbusinesswoman.com/training. So navigating difficult conversations. Oh my God, right? We've all had them, right? We're going into conversation or the conversation all of a sudden appears and it's like, what's happening here, right? How do you handle this? But for those ones that you know are likely to happen, and so this could be again in your work, with your boss, with your coworkers, with your clients, vendors, anybody like that, right? Those are the kinds of conversations they come up, right? Where we know we're going to have a difficult conversation. This happens in our business, right? Same thing, with our staff members or our vendors, our clients. These things happen. It happens in our personal life with our loved ones, with family members, with friends, where all of a sudden we're realizing, okay, things are just a little weird here. What am I going to do about this? And it's a conversation that, I can pretty much say across the board from everybody, and I don't care who they are, what level they're at, whether they're in the C-suite, whether or not they're, high-level managers, mid-level managers, frontline people, whether, again, you've been in business for a very long time. Everybody avoids confrontation, or what they believe is going to be confrontation. The only person I know and that is actually really good at difficult conversations is my husband, Jeff, where he's really good at actually being able to not take these things personally. And that's what tends to happen for us, is that we tend, we go into this conversation, we tend to think that it's all or nothing. And that the person that we're dealing with is going to, go away or get mad at us and never talk to us again, or not love us anymore, or not, it's going to prevent a promotion, it's going to prevent somebody buying from us or staying with us as a client. But again, Jeff has been absolutely terrific at this. I actually used to call him the Terminator, but I actually now think of him more as a liberator. What happened is that when he was managing in a number of different places, what he would do is if somebody wasn't doing a good job, he would go and talk to them and coach them through it, right? It's really just about coaching through. Again, if you're a manager and you're doing this with staff, or you're in business and you're doing this with staff, you need to coach people through this. And you actually sometimes need to coach them and be honest with them about how much they suck. Right? But you would do it in a nice way, And what would happen, and what I saw happen over and over again for him, is that he would have these conversations with people. They would respect him even more. And he taught me this as well. I mean, we would have difficult conversations and he would just approach them and not expect that I'm going to fly off the handle, or I'm not going to love him anymore. It was just like, no, look, this is what's happening for me. This is what I see. And so I'm going to get into a little bit more of this, but so many of us avoid this like the plague. And I'll just finish up my little story about Jeff, is what would happen for him. And I think this is very, very important, is that virtually all the people that he ever had to fire, right, had to let go of their jobs, they all loved him anyways. So they just thought he was the best in the world. So if you think that it's not possible to have difficult conversations and come out looking really good or getting the results that you want, that's not the truth. That's BS. The truth is that the more you can do this, the better, right? But what happens for us is if we are taking this personally, I don't know if you can hear that. It's the yard waste truck coming up the hill. Good thing I'm not outside. It's like way louder out there. Anyways, what happens is when we go into avoidance about this, what happens for people is that they tend to kind of carry on doing what they're doing, right? And we can start to feel like we're being taken advantage of, that we're not getting what we want, that we are, and we start playing small, right? And we start feeling really, really awful about the situation, about ourselves, and we start looking for other ways actually to get out of it, right? So again, we might be, if we're in a job, we might be looking for another job so we don't have to have this difficult conversation. Well, let me tell you, until you solve this, those difficult conversations are going to follow you around. It doesn't matter where they are, right? And where you are, and, like that old saying is, wherever you go, there you are. And so the challenges that you've had in one place, you're going to have somewhere else. I can pretty much promise you that. So, and it's yours to eliminate. Excuse me. Time of year, really, I think, got a tickle in my throat. So that's what we do. We avoid it like the plague. And again, we start to not feel very good about ourselves. And we're not getting our own way. We're not getting what we want out of whatever the situation is. And so communication is key, right? And being able to learn to communicate well is huge. All right. So the next thing that tends to happen is that there's a cost to this, right? You'll hear me talk about this more and more. There's a cost to this. There's repercussions from not taking care of this and not learning how to navigate conversations or difficult conversations. And what happens is our relationships can turn sour, our jobs where we are, that there can be a tenseness in the atmosphere. If we're in business, our business will tend to start to go down because we're not looking after things again, or we're not getting again what we need in our business because we're not having these difficult conversations. If you are a coach and you're not telling the truth to somebody, they're going to feel it, and they're going to wonder why they're not getting the results, and you know why. And if you're scared to actually have that conversation with them and say, look, buddy, if you keep doing this, you're going to keep getting the same results. And so again, our business will tend to go down. We will also spend an immense amount of energy, and time on trying to think this through and getting mad about things and taking it personally. And we don't want to do that, right? Again, you have better things to do. You can grow your business. You can actually up level in your career if you spend your time wisely. But if you're reminiscing and if you're kind of ruminating on this stuff over and over and over again, then you're not doing yourself any favors. And again, you're actually not even standing still, you're actually moving backwards. And again, that avoidance, that anger, that frustration, it just helps to make us feel worse about ourselves. So we lose confidence. And then we go into those standard things where we procrastinate. We feel we procrastinate, we start to self-sabotage, and we can even be feeling the imposter syndrome where we're not feeling good enough because we can't have these conversations, right? Just like, oh, I'm avoiding it. I know what a dip I am, right? And you're not a dip. It's just that it's just really learning. Sometimes I think it is all about just finding the right words, right? When we find the right words to communicate, makes all the difference in the world. And so I'm going to share a couple of things with you. So what I want you to actually start, there's 3 things I want to share with you today about how to navigate difficult conversations. And there's the first 2 actually fold into the third and become the third. But the first one is really be very clear about what outcome it is that you would like to have in this conversation. And so you may not think that you actually are going to get it, but we want to actually start to change that mindset, because when you go into a conversation expecting something to happen in a certain way, and which means this is the way he always reacts, or this is the way she always reacts, and so why even bother, right? Well, I tell you, when you go into a conversation with that energy, with that intention, then of course you create it. It's just the way it is. You do start to create that. So you really want to get very clear about what the outcome it is that you want, and you want to make sure that you're not taking this personally. Really, everybody acts in their own interests, and even though they can be very altruistic, and even for yourself, you may be thinking, well, I try and do everything for everybody else. But when it comes down to it, we really always are acting in our own best interest, and the way we think and the way we believe we would act, right? And so when you're expecting to have a difficult conversation, be very mindful about what outcomes do you typically expect, right? Now it's like, okay, well, of course you don't want every conversation to go well, but are you clear about that? Or are you really, the biggest intention, the biggest thing that you actually are feeling is that it's not going to go well? Because again, that's going to happen. You will take actions to actually make it so, all right? So again, be clear about that. Now, I'll talk about what to do, if you all of a sudden find yourself in a conversation, right? And I'll talk about that at the end. But the second thing I want you to do is practice, right? Practice using the words that you want to use, okay? So if you're practicing having a difficult conversation, and again, if it's somebody that you know, and you have had conversations with them before that have not gone well, and you kind of can start to imagine what they might say. I want you to start to imagine, what do you want to say? What would be really beneficial for you to actually get out? And start practicing that. Now, also you can start practicing, if you kind of know what they might say, is start practicing responding to that in a way that is, again, going to lead you to your outcome, all right? This is always about leading you to your outcome, the outcome that you would like. Ideally, it would be a win-win situation, right? Because of course, then everybody wins and it's good, but sometimes that's not possible. You may be the boss, and you need to have a conversation with somebody who's not living up to what they need to be doing. Well, again, if you don't correct that, nothing changes, all right? If you are in a relationship and you're in a love relationship, and and somebody's treating you very, not well, your partner's not treating you well, then you need to have that conversation, because sometimes they just don't know, right? They're just being them, right? And they don't know. I love this quote by Wayne Dyer, which is, we teach people how to treat us, all right? So start practicing this. And when you start to practice, what happens is that you're actually creating muscle memory. All right, you're starting to, and I would say it out loud. These are things I've done in my past for sure. Whereas I will actually start to practice those words. What is it that I want to say? How do I want to say it? And practice out loud, because again, you're creating muscle memory in your jaw and your brain. You're wiring your brain to actually have good, practical conversations that are going to work out. And what if it doesn't have to be difficult? All right. Now what happens is I, for the most part, will trust myself to have those conversations and know that the words are going to come in, I'll get a download about, okay, I know what to say in the moment. And because I've practiced this enough. Now, both of these two things about being, really clear about what you want and then practicing that that gets folded into really what is honestly the most important thing, which is really start to imagine that happening. And beyond that, so you've kind of done this here, you imagine what it's going to be like, but beyond that, you have to feel what it would feel like for you to get the result that you want, for you to get the outcome that you want. When you can get into that state of like, for most people, it's going to be like, oh my God, that would be so awesome, right? I mean, he's just so amazing. This has been such a it's been so difficult. When you can get into that state of feeling, you again are wiring your body, you're wiring your mind, you're wiring the words to come out the way you want. You're actually also sending out energy and intention to the other person that you're going to have a good conversation. And I'll give an example, and forgive me if you've heard me tell this example before, but it is such a great example of kind of, what people say is pre-paving, right? So you're pre-paving the result, to borrow from Lynn Grabhorn, name from the past. But anyways, when you're pre-paving, you're actually saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. So for instance, one of the first people I ever taught this to was a woman who was sharing custody of her kids with her ex-husband. And she said to me, Karen, this is, it never goes well. It's always very difficult. It's always very tense. It's not great for the kids. It stresses me out. And I would just say, oh, somebody's trying to call me. I've got to decline that. Out of here. And so what would happen is she would just be very stressful. And so I just, well, what would you like it to be like? And she just said, oh, well, it'd be really great if it could just be really nice and natural and we would just get along, right? And it was just, the kids would be in a great space, we'd be in a great space, and it would just all work out really well. And I said, well, I asked her, how would that feel? She goes, it would just be so amazing. It would just be so much easier. And then I wouldn't have to be dreading this. Because of course, remember, when we spend a lot of time and energy on focusing, on getting prepared for these conversations or prepared for these situations, we're wasting time. We're wasting our energy. We have this certain time on this planet. So let's use it as wisely as possible. And so, again, by doing this, what happened is I really got her into that state of what it would be like. Well, as it turned out, when the kid swap happened on the weekend, it went really, really well. And so much so that the husband turned around and said, wow, we have not gotten along this well in years. And she never told him what she was doing, but she just pre-paved it. And when you do that, your energy is different, their energy is different, and the interaction between you two changes and becomes far more positive. So those are the three things I would do. Again, be really clear about your outcome, practice what you want to say, and then again, get into that state where you're imagining it all happening the way you would like it to happen and feel what it would be like to happen. Now, is it always going to happen like that? No. No, but at least you're setting yourself up in a much different way to and creating more likelihood of success and you navigating that conversation in a way that will be much better. Now, for those people that come at you and they're coming at you and they want to have this conversation on the spot and you're not prepared, you're not in the state for it, wherever possible, I would just say, look, this is taking me off guard, or geez, I wasn't expecting this. And excuse me. And get yourself the hell out of there. Just say, you know what, look, I want to have this conversation with you, but I need some time. I need some time to kind of wrap my head around it, to think about it. And, even just give me 5 minutes and let's come back. Let's reconvene. So wherever it is that you can do that, do that. In the moment also, if you can't do that, if you cannot extract yourself from the situation in the moment, the other thing I would suggest is to actually just, be mindful, listen, do everything in your power not to take it personally, because as soon as we start to take things personally, our energy shifts, right? And all of a sudden we're thinking about what our response is going to be, and we're not even listening to them. And of course, they get that, they hear that. So again, just hear what they're saying. Even if they're coming at you, remember, it is not personal. It's all about them. Okay. This is about them. And so, and respond the best that you can, but in all cases, wherever you can, extract yourself and then come back when you are grounded and are ready for the conversation. Okay. Excuse me for my cough. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with that. There's, again, those three things to do. And I would love if you would comment below. And if you want to have a chat about this, come on over to the No Limits Businesswoman Facebook group. If you're not already part of it, the easiest way to get there is to type in sheis.me. So again, sheis.me, and that's going to take you right to the group. Ask to request to be part of the group, and I will, and we will make sure that. And sorry, there's notices popping up here. We will make sure that we get you in the group right away. My apologies. Really have a throat thing today. Okay. What I want to ask you this though, is how would this feel for you? If you could actually conquer this and not have to avoid these conversations anymore, how would that feel? How awesome would that be? And I would, write that down below, right? Comment that down below. What would that be like? If you never had to have these kinds of conversations, or you never had to really worry about them, what I also know is that when you get used to doing this, those difficult conversations tend to go away. Lesson learned, right? So it's an amazing thing. Because also, you've also reframed them that they're not difficult conversations anymore. So that's a huge thing. So again, come over and join us in our group. And if the cost to you of not having these difficult conversations, and if you're in real avoidance, it's really impacting your income, if it's really impacting your life, if it's really impacting your business or your career, if it's really impacting you personally, and you've been trying things and you don't know how to get around this, you don't really know what the words are to say, then let's have a conversation and see if there's something I can help you with, and something that we can work together on, and one of my programs. So it's just come over to nolimitsbusinesswoman.com/talk. Again, nolimitsbusinesswoman.com/talk. I'm trying not to cough anymore. But again, let's have that conversation. Okay, that doesn't have to be a difficult conversation. It's a fun conversation, because again, I'm gonna open your eyes to something that will probably kind of blow you out of the water. So I'll leave it with you there. Again, comment below any questions or any comments. Just drop them in below, and I am really pleased. Thank you so much for joining me today. I know you could be all kinds of other places. In the meantime, go out and live the no limits life. All right, take care.